The instant Baron Trump stepped into the grand lobby of the Hudson Royale, he could feel all eyes on him. This five-star hotel, renowned for catering to Hollywood elites and progressive politicians, radiated exclusivity, not due to its price, but because of its values. The marble floors shimmered beneath the dim glow of chandeliers, while designer-clad guests leisurely sipped their overpriced cocktails at the bar. A jazz pianist played softly in the background, setting an atmosphere of quiet sophistication. This was the kind of place where people praised diversity, yet only seemed to welcome one particular way of thinking. Barron strode toward the front desk, where a slim, impeccably dressed man in his 40s stood behind the counter. His name tag read Elliot Green, and the slight tightening of his lips the moment he spotted Barron made it clear. He knew exactly who he was dealing with. "Welcome to the Hudson Royale," Elliot greeted smoothly, his tone polished, yet his smile never quite reaching his eyes. "I have a reservation," Barron replied, his voice steady and calm. Elliot placed the card on the counter, but didn't even glance at the screen. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, a rehearsed, almost gleeful smirk appearing on his face. "I'm afraid there's been a change of plans, Mr. Trump," he said smoothly. "We won't be able to accommodate you tonight." Barron arched an eyebrow. "Excuse me." Elliot sighed, as if this was an unfortunate inconvenience rather than a deliberate decision. "You see, the Hudson Royale has a strict policy on who we allow to stay," he continued. "We strive to create an inclusive and welcoming environment, and, well, I'm sure you understand." From the corner of his eye, Barron noticed something. A group of guests at the bar had turned their attention toward him, some whispering, others chuckling. One even discreetly lifted his phone, recording. Barron's gaze returned to Elliot. "So let me get this straight," he said, his voice steady. "You claim to be inclusive, yet you're excluding me. Because of my last name?" Elliot's smirk widened just a bit. "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone who doesn't align with our values." A mocking laugh erupted from somewhere behind Barron. "Serves him right," a man in a tailored suit muttered to his date. "Trump's kid has no business here." Then, a familiar voice rang out across the lobby. "Finally, a hotel with standards." Barron turned his head. Standing by the bar, drink in hand, was none other than Michael Reynolds, the famous liberal talk show host, known for his aggressive attacks on conservatives. A smug grin stretched across his face as he raised his glass. "I was wondering when places like this would stop letting these people in," Reynolds said, his voice loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. Laughter followed. Some guests even clapped, celebrating his humiliation as if it were a spectacle. The applause echoed like a slap to the face. They were actually cheering his rejection. Barron's fingers curled slightly, but his face remained unreadable. He had faced this kind of treatment before. Whispers, stares, people waiting for him to react. But this was different. Reynolds took a slow sip of his drink. His eyes locked onto Barron like a predator watching its prey. "Maybe try the motel down the street," he sneered. "I hear they take anyone." More laughter. More applause. The wealthy elites in the lobby acted as if they had just witnessed a grand victory. Behind the desk, Elliot remained, his smirk growing wider. He was enjoying this. But Barron, he didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and calmly opened the voice recording app. "So just to clarify," Barron said, his voice loud and clear enough for the entire lobby to hear, "the Hudson Royale, a hotel that claims to be inclusive, is denying me service because of my last name?" Elliot's smirk faltered. "Sir, I already explained." No, Barron cut in, his tone unwavering. "I just want to make sure I got this right. You're refusing me service because I'm a Trump." A tense silence fell over the room. All eyes were on them. Phones were recording. Reynolds let out an exaggerated sigh. "Oh, come on, kid. No one here wants you. Just leave like a good little." "Like a good little what?" Barron interrupted sharply, his gaze locking onto Reynolds like a blade. Reynolds hesitated. He hadn't expected pushback. Barron turned back to Elliot. "So here's what's going to happen," he said, slipping his phone back into his pocket. "I'll leave. But by tomorrow morning, the entire world is going to know exactly what kind of place this is." Elliot's jaw tightened. "Are you threatening us?" he asked, though his voice lacked its previous confidence. Barron smirked. "No. I'm giving you a gift." He stepped toward the exit. "The chance to be famous. Congratulations." And with that, he walked away. Some guests chuckled. Others whispered. But Barron... He didn't give them the satisfaction of looking back. Sitting in the back of his car, he stared at the blur of city lights while his phone buzzed non-stop. He had known the video would gain traction, but this fast? Even he hadn't expected that. Unlocking his screen, he was met with an explosion of notifications. Clips of his exchange with the hotel manager were spreading like wildfire. His calm, pointed questioning, the smug arrogance of the staff, the undeniable hypocrisy. It was all there, captured perfectly. Within minutes, the internet had erupted. First, in the comments, then in Twitter threads, then in YouTube live streams. If this had happened to anyone else, it would have been a national scandal. "So much for the tolerant left," someone wrote. Apparently, tolerance only applies to the right kind of people. This is outright discrimination. They're trying to silence us. Then, the big voices got involved. A well-known conservative podcaster posted the clip with the caption, "If Barron were black or transgender, CNN and..." If Barron had been anyone else, NBC would be airing special reports on discrimination. But because he was a Trump... Silence. The post went viral instantly. #BoycottHudsonRoyale started trending. Then, #WHotelExposed. He had expected left-wing media to rush to the hotel's defense, to justify their actions, to argue that he somehow deserved it. But then, he saw tweets telling a different story. "I hate the Trumps, but are we seriously banning people from hotels because of their last name now? We can't pretend this is okay. This is literally discrimination. I'm no fan of Barron, but the hotel just made a massive mistake." The narrative was shifting. As he scrolled further, a new statement from the Hudson Royale appeared on his screen. "We believe in inclusivity and diversity. The situation with Mr. Trump was misunderstood, and we are working to address the matter internally." Internally? That wasn't a denial. That was panic. Barron leaned back, shaking his head, phone resting in his palm. They had thrown him out to make a statement. But now? Now, they were the ones being hunted. His feed was a frenzy. News outlets were already running segments on the controversy, split-screen debates, heated discussions over whether the hotel had gone too far. Conservative hosts were furious, calling it an obvious case of political discrimination. But what really caught Barron's attention? The hesitation from liberal media. Some tried to downplay it, but that usual confidence? It was missing. The hotel has a right to refuse service, but this does seem excessive. If we're talking about inclusivity, shouldn't it apply to everyone? Would we be okay if a liberal figure was kicked out of a conservative-owned business? Barron smirked. That was the real question, wasn't it? Then, something else popped up on his screen. Leaked emails. Screenshots were surfacing from the hotel's internal staff chat. A whistleblower, likely an employee who disagreed with what had happened, had exposed everything. One message stood out. The higher-ups don't want Trump's kid here. If he shows up, make it as difficult as possible. We don't need that kind of attention. Barron raised an eyebrow. Well. Within minutes, every major outlet was covering it. New leaked emails reveal Hudson Royale's targeted ban on Barron Trump. The hotel lied. Internal messages expose planned exclusion. Even some left-wing journalists were stunned. A well-known liberal columnist tweeted, "If this is true, Hudson Royale just handed conservatives the biggest win of the year. This isn't just bad optics, it's blatant hypocrisy." Barron knew exactly what was coming next. The hotel had thought they were untouchable. But now they had only one way out, a public apology. And the real question was, would Barron accept it? The pressure on Hudson Royale had reached a boiling point. The leaked emails had been the final straw. Even their most loyal clientele was scrambling to distance themselves. Celebrities who had once frequented the hotel suddenly found themselves in an awkward position. Would they continue supporting a business that had been caught discriminating against someone solely because of his last name? For the Hudson Royale, this wasn't just bad press anymore. This was a PR catastrophe. Barron sat in his penthouse, watching as news anchors ripped apart the hotel's flimsy excuses. The leaked messages had obliterated their defense. Even the most die-hard liberal pundits had been forced to admit it was indefensible. The Hudson Royale had thought they were making a statement when they humiliated him. But now, they were the ones being judged. His phone buzzed. A notification. He almost smirked. It was predictable. An official statement from the Hudson Royale. At the Hudson Royale, we value inclusivity, diversity, and creating a welcoming environment for all our guests. We deeply regret any misunderstandings that may have occurred and will be reviewing our policies to ensure that all individuals are treated fairly in the future. Barron exhaled sharply, shaking his head. We deeply regret any misunderstandings. They still weren't admitting what they did. They weren't apologizing. They were damage controlling. He refreshed Twitter, expecting backlash. And sure enough, it came. He was right. Misunderstandings? There was no misunderstanding. They got caught. A non-apology. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they got exposed. This just proved every single word in those emails. They meant it. The only thing they didn't expect. Getting caught. But then, a new tweet. One that grabbed his attention immediately. A rival hotel chain had just made their move. Unlike the Hudson Royale, we believe in real inclusivity. Everyone is welcome here. We'd be honored to host Barron Trump anytime. And just like that, the narrative shifted again. People started canceling their Hudson Royale reservations. Public figures announced they were switching hotels. And in a perfectly poetic twist, former guests of the Hudson Royale began posting selfies from inside the rival hotel, tagging their location with captions like, "Now this is what real inclusivity looks like." Barron smirked. It was over for them. Now, the only option they had left. A direct apology to him. And if they sent it, he had a decision to make. Accept it, or let them sink. The Hudson Royale was drowning. Their weak excuse of a statement had backfired spectacularly. Instead of quieting the backlash, it fueled the outrage. Social media refused to let it go. The leaked emails had obliterated any credibility they had left. Now, They were in full panic mode. Negative reviews flooded in. People cancelled bookings en masse. Even their long-time clientele, Hollywood elites, politicians, media figures, distanced themselves. Barron watched it all unfold in real time. His phone buzzed non-stop. Then, on Twitter, a rival luxury hotel made their move. Unlike some, we believe in true inclusivity. Everyone is welcome here, Mr. Trump. We'd be honored to have you as our guest anytime. The internet exploded. People started posting selfies from inside the rival hotel, tagging their locations, using hashtags like #RealInclusivity, #BoycottHudsonRoyale, #StayHereInstead. And just like that, the Hudson Royale was replaced. Then, the moment he had been waiting for. His phone buzzed. An email. Not from a manager. From the CEO. Mr. Trump, we deeply regret the events that transpired during your visit. This does not reflect the values we strive to uphold. We sincerely apologize for any distress this may have caused. We would like to invite you back as our guest, with our deepest apologies. There it was. The final surrender. Barron exhaled sharply, eyes locked on the screen. After everything, after they humiliated him publicly, after they encouraged the applause, after they let people mock him, they thought an email would fix it. His phone buzzed again. A text. From his father. Good job. Barron smirked. They had tried to make an example out of him. Instead, he made an example out of them. And now,